We're back on the SportsMax Zone and we're kicking things off with football. The new European Super League, proposed by 12 of Europe's biggest clubs, is dead in the water. This after 10 of the 12 founding members have all withdrawn from the controversial competition. Now, all 6 English clubs, Manchester United, Liverpool, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea and Tottenham, along with the 3 Italian clubs, Inter, Juventus and AC Milan, they have already decided, along with Spain's Atletico Madrid, that they are pulling out of the tournament. And only the Spanish giants Real Madrid and Barcelona are left standing. Now, in the last 24 hours, the English clubs have been speaking to their fans about the doomed project. In an open letter to supporters, this is what Arsenal wrote. The last few days have shown us yet again the depth of feeling of our supporters around the world have for this great club and the game we love. It was never our intention to cause such distress. However, when the invitation to join the Super League came, while knowing there were no guarantees, we did not want to be left behind to ensure we protected Arsenal and its future. As a result of listening to you and the wider football community over the recent days, we are withdrawn from the proposed Super League. We made a mistake and we apologize for it. Now, in an unusual move, one of the owners of Manchester United, Joel Glazer, penned an open letter to his club supporters. This is what Glazer said. To all Manchester United supporters, you have made very clear our opposition, or your opposition, to the European Super League, and we have listened. We got it wrong, and we want to show that we can put things right. Although the wounds are raw, and I understand that it will take time for the scars to heal, I am personally committed to rebuilding trust with our fans and learning from the message you delivered with such conviction. We continue to believe that European football needs to become more sustainable throughout the pyramid for the long term. However, we fully accept that the Super League was not the right way to go about it. And in a video message of the owner of Liverpool, John W. Henry, told fans he was sorry for letting them down.
I want to apologize to all the fan supporters of Liverpool Football Club for the disruption I caused over the past 48 hours. It goes without saying, but should be said, that the project put forward was never going to stand without the support of the fans. No one ever thought differently in England. Over these 48 hours, you were very clear that it would not stand. We heard you. I heard you. And I want to apologize to Jurgen, to Billy, to the players, and to everyone who worked so hard at LFC to make our fans proud. They have absolutely no responsibility for this disruption. They were the most disrupted, and unfairly so. This is what hurts most. They love your club and work to make you proud every single day. I know the entire LFC team has the expertise, leadership, and passion necessary to rebuild trust and help us move forward.
John W. Henry there. Now, the question many are asking is this: what sanctions, if any, should UEFA impose on the so-called Dirty Dozen? Now, to answer this question and more, our English correspondent, Simon Evans, and our Latin American correspondent, Juan Arango. Simon joins us on Zoom while Juan is on the phone. Gentlemen, welcome to the SportsMax Zone. And this topic continues to be headlining football news globally. And let me start with Simon. I've been monitoring your stories on the highly respected global Reuters news agency. What is your take on what has happened in the last 24 hours? And are sanctions still hovering over these clubs' heads?
Well, what's happened over the last 72 hours, really, since Sunday when this was announced, has been really a storm of protest in England and opposition to this, right the way across football, at every level, involving the supporters, but also players. We heard Pep Guardiola from Manchester City, one of the teams involved, come out and said he didn't consider it to be sport to have a competition without qualification and based on sporting merit. Liverpool players came out and protested against it. But I think a crucial factor here really was the way that UEFA and the Premier League also felt threatened by this, of course, utilised their political alliances and contacts to really turn the screw on this bid and strangle it, really, because the threats from Boris Johnson's government in the UK that they might not give work visas to players, they would not pay for police to be at the ground, they would legislate against this, really, really made the clubs think. So all this talk about we listen to the fans, it's nice PR, but I think it was politics and the power of government that forced them to back off.
Yeah, understood, Simon. Simon, when you spoke with us at the beginning of the week, you did suggest to us that in your discussions with football people outside of Britain, the noise was a little less than it was in Britain. Britain, I think, the most volatile in reacting negatively to this. So I'm going to ask Juan Arango your thoughts, not so much with Britain now, but the teams that were involved that were non-British teams, your take on their Super League proposal and, well, 80-90% of them backing down in the end.
Well, it's interesting that we're talking about it from different perspectives, and it is exactly that. I mean, depending on which country you're looking at, it's a totally different way of looking of really living this experience. In Spain, it went down pretty quickly. Alexander Seferin, the president of UEFA, just a few minutes ago, started talking about the whole situation, who he felt disappointed. The team that he felt disappointed least was Barcelona, because of course, Joan Laporta just took over less than a month and a half ago as president. So he wasn't the one that signed the paperwork to be able to start this Super League deal. And also, you start seeing what Florentino Perez was saying a couple of days ago, where he said, yeah, I convinced Joan Laporta to turn from his original convictions. Oh, you know, I'm not interested. I think that the Super League is going to be a disaster. That he flipped over and started to favor the Super League, and that's apparently looking quite false. So much so that Florentino Perez tonight, in about maybe 5-10 minutes or so, he's going to be giving an interview on Spanish radio yet again to talk about the presence of the Super League. So again, it shows you that some, of course, see it dead in the water, but there's just one or two people, specifically Florentino Perez, that look at it as, hey, you know what, we're still alive, we're still going. As long as it's just Real Madrid, well, I guess it's a world apart for him. But you start to look at it from that perspective, he thinks it's still alive. Andrea Agnelli over in Italy, over at Juventus, as well as Milan and Inter, also see it as completely dead in the water. The only person that is seeing that this league is still alive is Florentino Perez.
Definitely, Juan. Well, I'm going to pose this question to Simon. Simon, it's clear that there is a gap. The position that we are in right now, there is a massive gap. There are 6 teams that, wanted to do their own things. And then we have 14 disgruntled teams that, were not in any way okay with what was happening. In order to move forward, because there are competitions that need to continue, how do we bridge that gap to move forward?
Yeah, I think the Premier League is going to have to face up to that one, and I think the mood at the moment is very hostile to those 6 clubs. There's reports in England this evening suggesting that representatives of the Big 6 will be being removed from some of the internal committees in the Premier League because there is a feeling that they use those positions to get information and to help them put together this breakaway issue. So there's a lot of broken trust there. And I'm not sure that the sanctions that some people are talking about and punishments for this are necessarily going to be the way that they go. That's not always a very football thing to do. These are clubs, these are organizations that do like to come together and paint over the cracks, really, when there's been a conflict. But I think what we will see is maybe them looking much closer at their regulations, at their governance rules. I also think, in order to make sure this kind of thing couldn't happen again, I also think in the specific case of England, we will see a great deal of pressure on the government to set up an independent regulator or some sort of oversight to keep the clubs in line.
Definitely. One, just following up on what Simon said, do you feel any sort of sanction or any sort of punishment would ensure these clubs, from never doing this again? Or are they smarter now, and the next time they come with this, they have a stronger plan?
I think, I didn't hear exactly what Simon said, but I think it would be both. I mean, you'd have to make sure that there's an exemplary, an exemplary kind of motion established by UEFA and FIFA in terms of being able to establish a rogue type of league, but also better planning. I think the one that said it best was Arsene Wenger when he said, you know what, they had 12 teams, but they were trying to set a format for 20. What was going to happen to the other teams that accepted? So there was the problem right from the get-go there. That was the biggest issue, of course, being better prepared. But also, if you've read a couple of the statements, they've said one thing in common, that this idea has been suspended, and we have to come back and be able to have a better plan. So don't expect this to be the complete end of the Super League, but it is at least this iteration. It's going to be something that they're going to have to look at in conjunction with UEFA and FIFA to make it look stronger.
Yeah, Simon, we've heard the term greedy being attached to these Super League proponents. And I want to ask you this question because there is the feeling that a lot of this move towards the Super League was born out of a genuine desire by the owners to benefit the clubs and football, and you know, which would shed that argument about them being greedy. Is that a view that holds water?
You know, I think the greed thing, there's something in it, but it's also a little bit rhetorical and populist as well when people go aggressively about the greed and so on. I think what was at the heart of this, and the thing I kept hearing over and over for clubs over the last couple of years, really, but especially since COVID came up, and then we had Project Big Picture talked about, of course, before as well, is the question of who controls the game, really. And these big clubs say, look, we pay the big money, we invest the money, we build the stadiums, we pay the players, and yet it's UEFA and FIFA who are in control of these games. We're the ones who take the risks, and they don't. And they wanted to have much more control over this. Now, there was this kind of agreement within European football, really, that there would be more of that. They set up a joint company between the clubs in the format of the ECA association and UEFA, and that was likely to evolve towards something where there would be like a 50-50 split over the control of it. This was an attempt to blow that out of the water and go 100% total control, and that wasn't going to happen. And it was, as Juan has indicated, appallingly presented and constructed. The plan for it, they never came out and made their case, quite frankly. The only decent case I really heard for somebody talking about the Super League was George on this show the other night, who seemed very enthusiastic about it. But I haven't heard anything from the Super League people.
Yeah. All right, I listened closely to the words of Glazer, the Man U co-owner, and he pledged to rebuild trust with the fans and so on, and was unequivocal in his apologies and so on. But at the same time, later on in his quote, he said there needs to be some European reform to sustain European football, which sort of gives you the feeling that, yes, we may have gone about this the wrong way, but something has to be done at some point.
Yeah, the issues haven't gone away about the financial problems in the game, but the financial problems in the game, the Americans look at it and they say, well, we have salary caps in American sport, and that's the way we deal with the inflation. And there's absolutely no doubt the Spanish clubs, Barcelona's debt is beyond €1 billion. Real Madrid have big problems as well. There are serious issues that do need to be addressed in the future by football and money, and without people shouting about greed every time they try to do it. But you can't adopt the American system in Europe. You can't have the salary cap system in Europe for all sorts of reasons. So they have to find a way to make something like financial fair play work, and they have to find a way also, I think, to return a little bit to the kind of spirit we had in football before the big money came in, where there were big clubs, but they weren't so much bigger than everybody else. The European Cup had a lot of different winners, and it was a very open competition. And I think a lot of fans would like to see more clubs from more countries doing well, and maybe just moving away from these big sixes, big 12s, and all these bigs.
Well, Simon, as usual, always great talking to you. We lost Juan Arango on the line, but we thank him for joining us as well, and we'll be in touch on this one.
All right, cheers.
Yeah, so the story kept rolling today, Mariah. Teams backing off, and now, as we said, only Barcelona, left to, outwardly say. But the point was made earlier on the show, and Simon had said it on Monday's show, that the fact that the noise from, in reacting negatively to this development had mostly come from England, is even borne out in how quickly the teams have pulled out eventually, because it was the English teams that were the first to back off.
Definitely, Lance. And I don't know if you remember, but when I was on the show on Monday as well, when I gave my points, I was clear to say that, I didn't see this manifesting based on the fact that, the way how everything just unfolded so rashly. I felt as if there was not a clear plan. They had their discussions, and you spoke about something. You said that you felt as if the owners were genuinely just wanting to do more for football, and we also brought up the topic of greed. When I looked at that, and that's only one of the few points that I have to say I agreed with the European Super League, because I obviously was from the onset not agreeing with it, right? I said, UEFA and FIFA for so long have kept a lot of the money for themselves. And it is true, and it's normal for, the players and the owners to feel as if they want more. But you see how things turn, all the discussion turns towards the fans when you actually want to take money now from the people that actually own the competitions. So it's really a battle of greed, but who is more greedy? Because UEFA has the money and they're used to getting all the money. Now, when I say I want to create a competition, you turn the entire discussion on the fans. And that's only one point, that we can look at. And I can't side with the Super League in that aspect, financial aspect.
Yeah, well, Simon said it earlier on that, they're sort of glossing the thing over and apologizing to the fans. And
it became about the fans.
Yeah, John Barnes, the former England international, Jamaica-born, who was also coach of the Jamaica Reggae Boys and a Liverpool icon, told the media in England today that he thought it was never about the fans, really. And in the last 24 hours, despite what they're saying now, he pretty much said that it was about UEFA trying to hold on to power, the Premier League trying to hold on to power, and the other group, the European Super League, trying to come into power. And I think Simon just summed it up as pretty much how the story has unfolded this week.
What I do believe, Lance, is these members of this ESL that no longer exists, they've gotten smarter. So the next time they come with a proposal, they would have studied all the laws, they would have spent a lot of time together, and it will not be a gloss over like this. Yeah,
this is the SportsMax Zone, the home of champions, one of the main contents on the SportsMax channel, SportsMax 1 and 2, WTA tennis, women's tennis. They're in Stuttgart this week.